David Anderson never imagined that the simple walk home from his office in downtown Chicago would change his life. But on a crisp autumn evening, he saw a woman sitting on the cold sidewalk, her eyes holding a quiet strength that defied her worn-out clothes. He felt a pull, a need to do something. He offered her a hand, not knowing that this one small act of kindness was about to set off a chain reaction that would turn his entire world upside down. The city streets were thrumming with the usual rush-hour chaos as David made his way home from another long day at Sterling Corp. With his messenger bag slung over his shoulder, he weaved through the sea of suits and glowing smartphones, his mind already on a quiet night in his apartment. As he turned onto a less crowded side street, something caught his eye. Amidst the urban hustle, a lone figure sat on the pavement, a stark contrast to the hurried people rushing past. David's pace slowed. He got closer, his eyes landing on her cardboard sign. It read, "Fell on hard times, anything helps." She was a black woman, maybe in her mid-30s, with a face that told a story of both hardship and dignity. Her clothes were worn and didn't match, but there was something in her posture, in the way she held herself, that made David stop. Before he could talk himself out of it, he was standing in front of her. "Excuse me," he said, his voice softer than he'd intended. "Are you all right?" The woman looked up, her eyes meeting his with a directness that caught him off guard. "As all right as I can be. Under the circumstances," she replied, her voice surprisingly clear and articulate. David shifted uncomfortably, the gap between their two worlds suddenly feeling a mile wide. "I'm David," he offered, extending a hand before realizing how awkward the gesture might be. To his surprise, she took it. Her grip was firm, despite her frail appearance. "Lisa," she said simply. "Lisa," David repeated, fumbling for the right words. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but how did you end up here?" A shadow crossed Lisa's face, and for a second David wished he could take the question back. But then she spoke, her voice low and even. "Life has a way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it?" She gave a small, sad smile. "I had a good life once, a family, a career, dreams. Then tragedy struck, and it was like dominoes, falling. One loss led to another, and before I knew it, I was here." David listened, captivated. Even describing her own downfall, she spoke with an unexpected eloquence. "What kind of tragedy?" he asked gently. Lisa's eyes clouded over. "The kind that tears families apart," she said vaguely. "I'd rather not get into the details if you don't mind. Suffice it to say, I lost everything that mattered, and getting back on your feet, it's not as easy as people think." David nodded, a lump forming in his throat. He'd heard stories like this, but something about Lisa, the intelligence that shone through her tired eyes, moved him deeply. "I'm so sorry," he said, knowing the words were completely inadequate. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Lisa's eyes flickered with an emotion he couldn't read. "You're kind to ask," she said, "but I'm not looking for a handout, just a chance to rebuild, you know." David found himself nodding again, an idea sparking in his mind. Before he could second-guess it, he blurted out, "Actually, there might be something." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "I work at Sterling Corp," David continued, the words tumbling out. "We're having this big office gala next week. Employees are supposed to bring a +1, but—" He trailed off, suddenly embarrassed. "But you don't have a date," Lisa finished for him, a hint of amusement in her voice. David felt his cheeks get hot. "Right, and I was thinking, maybe you'd like to come. I mean, it's a free, fancy meal at least, and who knows, there might be some networking opportunities." The second the words were out, he realized how crazy they sounded. He rushed to backtrack. "I'm sorry, that was probably inappropriate. I didn't mean to imply," but Lisa was just looking at him, her expression unreadable. "You're inviting me, a homeless woman you just met, to be your date to a corporate party. Put like that, it did sound absurd." David ran a hand through his hair, flustered. "I know it sounds crazy, but you seem... I don't know. There's something about you, Lisa. I think you'd fit right in. And maybe it could be a chance for something good to happen." Lisa was quiet for a long moment, her eyes searching his face. Finally, she spoke, her voice a mix of doubt and hope. "That's unexpected, but even if I wanted to go, I don't exactly have the right clothes for a corporate shindig." David's enthusiasm took over. "I can help with that," he said quickly. "We could find you something. It wouldn't be anything extravagant, but—" He trailed off again, realizing how that might sound. But to his surprise, Lisa didn't seem offended. Instead, she looked thoughtful. "Why are you doing this, David?" she asked softly. "You don't know me. I could be anyone." David paused. Why was he doing this? It wasn't just pity. There was something about Lisa that drew him in, that made him want to know her story. "I guess," he said slowly, "I believe everyone deserves a chance. And something tells me you have a lot more to offer than you think right now." Lisa's expression softened, a glimmer of gratitude or maybe hope in her eyes. But then doubt returned. "I don't want to be anyone's charity case," she said firmly. "It's not charity," David insisted. "Think of it as an opportunity for both of us. I get a fascinating +1 and you get a night off from—" He gestured vaguely at the street around them. Lisa actually chuckled, a sound that transformed her face. "You drive a hard bargain, David, but I have one condition." "Name it," David said, relieved. "If I do this," Lisa said, her voice suddenly serious, "I want the chance to repay your kindness. Someday. I don't know how or when, but I need you to understand that I'm not taking this lightly." David nodded, touched by her integrity. "Of course, it's a deal." As they shook hands, sealing their very unusual agreement, David felt like he was stepping into something much bigger than a simple act of kindness. He had no idea just how right he was. "So," David said, a hint of excitement in his voice, "shall we go find you something to wear?" Lisa hesitated for just a second. Then a small smile touched her lips. "Lead the way, David. This should be interesting." As they set off together, a truly odd pair against the backdrop of the bustling city, David felt a nervous flutter in his stomach. What had he just gotten himself into? And more importantly, what surprises did Lisa have in store? The bell over the door of Second Chances, a chic little consignment shop, chimed as they stepped inside. The name felt almost too perfect. A cheerful, middle-aged woman with kind eyes approached them. "Welcome. How can I help you two today?" David cleared his throat, suddenly feeling the strangeness of their mission. We're looking for an outfit for a corporate party," he explained, gesturing toward Lisa. "Something elegant, but not too flashy." The shopkeeper's eyebrows shot up for a fraction of a second, but she didn't miss a beat. "Of course. Let's see what we can find. Follow me, dear," she said, leading Lisa toward a rack of dresses. As Lisa browsed, David hung back, watching her run her fingers over the fabrics with a look that was a mix of longing and nostalgia. After a few minutes, he walked over. "See anything you like?" Lisa turned, holding up a simple, classic black dress. "What do you think of this one?" It was perfect, a knee-length sheath dress, elegant in its simplicity. "I think it could work," he said. "Why don't you try it on?" Lisa disappeared into the dressing room. As David waited, he couldn't stop wondering about her past, the way she carried herself, the discerning look in her eyes as she judged the clothes. It all pointed to a life very different from the one she was living now. The dressing room door opened, and Lisa stepped out. David's breath caught in his throat. The transformation was stunning. The dress fit her like it was made for her, giving her an air of sophistication that seemed to erase all traces of her recent life. She stood taller, more confident, as if the dress had reawakened a part of her that had been dormant. "Well," Lisa asked, a hint of nervousness in her voice. "How does it look?" David realized he'd been staring. "You look amazing," he managed to say. "Truly." A faint blush colored her cheeks. "Thank you. It's been a long time since I've worn anything like this." They ended up getting the black dress, a pair of modest heels, and a simple clutch. As David paid, he felt a thrill of excitement for the party. Over the next few days, he made sure Lisa had a warm place to stay and proper meals. On the day of the gala, they went to a small salon. As the stylist worked her magic, transforming Lisa's hair into an elegant updo, they fell into an easy conversation. "So, David," Lisa said, catching his eye in the mirror, "tell me more about this job of yours. What exactly do you do at Sterling Corp?" "I'm in marketing," he explained. "Mostly strategy for new product launches, market analysis, that kind of thing." "Sounds challenging. Do you enjoy it?" "Most of the time, yeah," David replied. "But sometimes—" He trailed off. "Sometimes you feel like you could be doing more," Lisa finished for him. David looked at her, surprised. "Exactly. How did you know?" Lisa just smiled. "Just a hunch. A lot of people in the corporate world feel that way." Her comment sparked his curiosity. "You seem to know a lot about the business world," he observed. "Did you work in that field before?" A shadow passed over Lisa's face, quickly replaced by a neutral mask. "Oh, I've had some experience here and there," she said vaguely. "You pick things up." Sensing her reluctance, David changed the subject. As the stylist finished, he marveled at the woman in the mirror. She was a world away from the person he'd met on the street. "What do you think?" Lisa asked, turning to face him. "You look incredible," David said, and he meant it. "No one at the party will ever believe." He stopped himself. Lisa smiled a little sadly. "That I was homeless a few days ago. It's okay, David. We both know the truth. But for one night it'll be nice to pretend, won't it?" They had dinner at a cozy Italian place before the party. Over pasta, David found himself opening up to her, sharing his dreams of making a real difference at his company, of implementing programs that could help the community. "But it's not easy," he finished with a sigh. "I'm just a mid-level guy. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck." Lisa looked at him thoughtfully. "You'd be surprised," she said. "Sometimes opportunities come from the most unexpected places. The key is to be ready when they do." Her tone made him ask again. "It really sounds like you're speaking from experience." Her expression flickered. "I've had some experiences in that world," she said carefully. "But that was a long time ago. A different life." David let it go. By the time they left the restaurant, he realized he was feeling a genuine connection to this mysterious, intelligent, and beautiful woman. As they approached the grand hotel where the gala was being held, David's nerves kicked in. "What if they ask how we met?" he wondered aloud. "We could tell them the truth," Lisa suggested. "That you met me on the street and decided to show me some kindness. You'd be okay with that?" "Why not?" she shrugged. "It speaks volumes about your character, David." He took a deep breath as they reached the entrance. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. Lisa smiled, a mix of excitement and resolve in her eyes. "Ready!" They stepped into the hotel lobby, the sounds of music and laughter drifting from the ballroom. As they walked toward the massive double doors, David caught their reflection in a mirror. They looked like a power couple. For a second, he almost believed it himself. "Here we go," he murmured. Lisa gave his arm a reassuring squeeze. "Remember, just be yourself, David. That's more than enough." With that, he pushed open the doors and they stepped into the party. The grand ballroom of the Celestial Hotel was buzzing. Chandeliers cast a warm glow over the elegantly dressed crowd. As the heavy oak doors swung open, a brief hush fell over the room. David stepped in, his heart pounding, with Lisa on his arm. It felt like every eye was on them, and in a way, they were. Lisa, in her simple black dress, radiated an elegance that commanded attention. David, who usually blended into the background at these things, suddenly felt like he was in the spotlight. "Is that David from marketing?" a voice whispered. Who's that woman with him?" another replied, not bothering to whisper. As they moved into the room, David could feel the stares. He glanced at Lisa, worried, but she was smiling confidently, completely at ease. "You okay?" he murmured. "I'm fine, David." She squeezed his arm. "Just enjoy the night." Almost immediately, they were approached by a group of his colleagues, including Sarah, a sharp-witted account manager known for her directness. "David!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes darting between him and Lisa. "You've been holding out on us. Who is your gorgeous date?" David took a breath. "Everyone, this is Lisa. Lisa, this is Sarah, Tom, and Michael." Lisa smiled warmly. "It's a pleasure to meet you all." It was Tom who asked the question on everyone's mind. "So, Lisa, how did you two meet? We had no idea he was seeing anyone." David opened his mouth, but Lisa beat him to it. "Oh, David and I met pretty recently, actually. It's kind of an unusual story." She paused, giving David a mischievous look. "You see, David found me on the street. I've been going through a difficult time, and in an act of incredible kindness, he invited me to be his date tonight." The group fell silent, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. David felt his face flush. It was Michael who broke the silence with a low whistle. "Well, I'll be damned. David, that's something else. You always were a stand-up guy." Sarah, however, looked skeptical. "On the street? Really? No offense, Lisa, but you look like you just stepped off a runway." Lisa's smile never wavered. "I assure you, it's the truth." David's generosity extended to helping me get ready for tonight. I'm incredibly grateful. Despite the whispers and skeptical looks, Lisa handled every conversation with grace and intelligence. She talked about market trends with the head of R&D and discussed global logistics with a senior VP. More than once, David found himself wondering, who is this woman? "How do you know so much about all this?" he asked her at one point. She just gave him that enigmatic smile. "Let's just say I've had an interesting life, David." As the night wore on, David noticed a buzz of anticipation. People kept looking toward the door. "They're waiting for our CEO, Robert Thompson," he explained to Lisa. "He's intense, brilliant, built this company from the ground up. Rumor is he's been going through some personal stuff lately, though." Lisa nodded, a strange expression on her face. "Yes, I gathered." Just then a hush fell over the room. Robert Thompson had arrived. He was an imposing figure, tall and distinguished, with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. As he scanned the room, his gaze suddenly locked onto their location. His eyes widened in shock. In an instant, he was striding towards them, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. David felt rooted to the spot, completely bewildered. As Mr. Thompson reached them, David saw the look that passed between his CEO and his date. "Elizabeth." Mr. Thompson's voice was a choked whisper. Lisa, or Elizabeth, David now realized, stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. "Hello, Robert," she said softly. The room was dead silent. Mr. Thompson reached out a trembling hand and touched her cheek, as if to make sure she was real. Is it really you? After all this time?" Elizabeth nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes, Robert, it's me." In a move that shocked everyone, Robert Thompson, The famously composed CEO pulled Elizabeth into a fierce embrace, his shoulders shaking. "You came back," he murmured, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "I thought I'd lost you forever." David stood frozen, his mind short-circuiting. The woman he'd met on the street was the CEO's wife. How was this possible? As they separated, Mr. Thompson kept an arm around Elizabeth's waist and turned to the stunned crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice regaining its authority, "allow me to introduce, or rather, reintroduce, my wife, Elizabeth Thompson." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Elizabeth then spoke, her voice clear and steady. "I owe you all an explanation, and you'll have it in time. For now, I'll just say that I needed to step away from my life for a while, to find a new perspective." She turned to David, her face full of genuine gratitude. "And I owe a particular debt of gratitude to David Anderson, who showed me extraordinary kindness when I was at my lowest point. He is a credit to this company and to humanity." Every eye in the room swiveled to David. He felt like he couldn't breathe. Mr. Thompson looked at him, a mix of gratitude and curiosity in his eyes. "David, it seems I owe you a great deal. We'll speak more about this later." He then addressed the room again, asking for privacy, as he and Elizabeth began to walk away. As they passed, Elizabeth paused and squeezed David's hand. "Thank you, David," she said softly, "for everything. I promise. We'll talk soon." And then they were gone, leaving David standing alone in a sea of bewildered faces and frantic whispers. Sarah rushed over, her eyes wide. "David, what just happened? Did you know?" "No," David managed to say, his voice hoarse. "I had no idea. I really did meet her on the street." He made his way to the bar in a daze. The bartender gave him a sympathetic look. "Rough night, huh?" "You have no idea," David mumbled, taking the whiskey offered to him. He had come to this party, hoping to make a good impression. Instead, he had stumbled into the middle of a corporate soap opera. The woman he thought he was helping had turned out to be one of the most powerful women in the city. And his life, he realized as he stared into his glass, would never be the same. The next morning, David walked into Sterling Corp headquarters feeling like he was in a dream. He was immediately escorted to the executive floor and led into a stunning corner office. Robert and Elizabeth Thompson were waiting for him. "David, thank you for coming," Mr. Thompson said, shaking his hand. "David," Elizabeth began, her voice full of warmth, "I want to start by apologizing. I never meant to deceive you." She then told him her incredible story. How 3 years ago, feeling lost and empty despite her privileged life, she had made the radical decision to disappear. She gave away her possessions and chose to live on the streets, to see the world from a completely different perspective, to find out who she really was without the money and the status. When you found me," she explained, "I had been out there for nearly 3 years. I was tired and I was starting to lose hope. Your kindness, it reminded me of the good in people. It's what made me realize it was time to come home." Mr. Thompson looked at David, his expression intense. "David, when you brought Elizabeth to that party, you didn't just reunite me with my wife. You reminded us both that there are still good people in this world. People willing to help without asking for anything in return. You've reminded us of the values that should be at the core of this company." David was speechless. I just did what felt right. And that," Elizabeth said softly, "is what makes it so remarkable. Which brings us to why we asked you here." Mr. Thompson leaned forward. "Elizabeth's journey has opened our eyes. We want to make real, meaningful changes. We're launching a major corporate social responsibility initiative, job training for the homeless, partnerships with shelters, microloans for people trying to get back on their feet. Elizabeth picked up where he left off. And we want you to lead it, David. Your compassion, your perspective. That's exactly the kind of leadership this project needs. David felt the air leave his lungs. Me? But I'm just a marketing guy. I don't have any experience with this. Sometimes, David, heart is more important than experience, Mr. Thompson said with a smile. You have the instincts. We'll give you all the resources you need. What do you say? Just days ago, he'd been dreaming of doing something more meaningful. Now here it was, an opportunity beyond his wildest imagination. He took a deep breath, a huge smile spreading across his face. Okay, he said, I'm in. Let's do this. In the weeks and months that followed, David threw himself into his new role. The initiative, which they called the Sterling Lifeline, quickly became more than just a PR move. It became a force for genuine change in the city. David launched a state-of-the-art job training center in a disadvantaged neighborhood, staffed by volunteers from Sterling Corp. At the grand opening, standing at the podium, David looked out at the hopeful faces in the crowd. He saw Robert and Elizabeth in the front row, Elizabeth's eyes shining with pride. This was it. This was the real difference he had always wanted to make. Later, as the event wound down, he felt a tap on his shoulder. It was Sarah from marketing. David, she said, her voice full of awe. This is incredible. You've really found your calling, haven't you? He smiled. I think I have. As he was leaving, a woman approached him, her clothes tattered, a cardboard sign in her hands. For a split second, his heart jumped. But it was a different woman, older, her face lined with hardship. Without a second's hesitation, David smiled warmly. Good evening, he said. Are you hungry? We have plenty of food left from the event. Why don't you come inside? As he gently led the grateful woman into the center, he felt a profound sense of peace. This was what it was all about. A year later, the Sterling Lifeline was a massive success, attracting national attention. David was summoned back to Mr. Thompson's office. David, the CEO began, a coalition of major corporations wants to take the Lifeline model national, and they want you to lead it. David was stunned. Leave the work he'd built here. That night, he met with Elizabeth. David, she told him, the night you found me, your one act of kindness set off a chain reaction that has already touched thousands of lives. Imagine what you could do on a national scale. The foundation you built here is strong. It will survive, but think of how many more people are out there waiting for a chance. On his last day at Sterling Corp, the entire community threw him a surprise farewell party at the center. David, Mr. Thompson said to the crowd, you came to us as a marketing executive, but you've become a beacon of hope, an inspiration to us all. Elizabeth stepped forward, her eyes glistening. A year ago, you extended a hand to a stranger on the street. Today, you're extending that same hand to countless people across the nation. Never forget the power of that simple act. As the crowd erupted in applause, David felt overwhelmed with gratitude. He looked at the faces, colleagues, friends, people whose lives had been forever changed, and knew this was just the beginning. Driving away that night, his car packed for a new life in a new city, he reflected on the incredible journey. A chance encounter on a city street had led him here. He didn't know exactly what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. He would keep extending that hand, keep believing in the power of compassion, and keep working to make the world a little better, one life at a time. The journey that began on that cold Chicago sidewalk was far from over. In fact, it was just getting started. If this story touches your heart, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more stories of unexpected twists and powerful acts of compassion, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. Definitely. Wow, okay. I just need a moment with that one. How did that story land with you guys? I'm genuinely curious to know what you're feeling right now. Drop it in the comments, and while you're at it, let me know where you're watching from. I absolutely love seeing our community spread all across the country, and even the world. And on a serious note, I truly hope you and your family are doing okay. Wherever you are, please stay safe out there. Sending you all so much love and peace. You know, listening to stories like this makes me think, I bet you guys have some incredible stories of your own. If you have a wild, heartwarming, or just plain unbelievable true story you'd be willing to share, please leave it in the comments. I read them, and I'd love to hear it. And, hey, if you enjoyed our time together today, a quick like and a subscribe would honestly mean the world. It helps more than you know. All right, that's all from me. Talk to you in the comments. Bye.